When you get better, your paycheck will get bigger. I'll explain what that means and how you make it happen. And then there's some weak spots we're seeing in the job market that could mean the Fed will cut those darn rates. Here to help you win at work, I'm Ken. This is the Ken Coleman Show. So excited you're with us. Okay, I say this a lot, and they posted this on social media, and 2 or 3 really pure, irritated souls took issue with it. And so I thought, okay. And just context here before we dive into this. And let me just tell you what this is not. This is not me defending this statement, but I am going to have some fun in setting the statement up. Because I believe it's absolutely 100% true, and I'm going to prove it. But the team said to me, excuse me, they said, some people said this sounded like some of these charismatic prosperity gospel TV preachers, Ken. To which I wanted to reply, does anybody with half of a brain and a modicum of common sense think that I am in any way a prosperity gospel charismatic TV preacher? Do I come across that way? No, I do not, Kelly, and you know it. I couldn't be I couldn't be any further away from it. So at first I was like, yeah, she thinks she's funny. By the way, she tells me all the time that she's funny. To which I should say to her, if you have to tell people you're funny, maybe you're not funny. I digress. So here's the point. I thought, okay, let's unpack this. Does the statement, when you get better, your paycheck will get bigger, does it hold up to scrutiny? All right, let's go. Let's first talk about what I mean by getting better, and then you be the judge. So let's look at 5 areas of your life that if you get better, it will allow your paycheck to get bigger. Here we go. Let's start with the foundational level, shall we? The soul. The soul. I am a spiritual creature. We have souls. Whether you're a person of faith or not, I don't think you can deny the fact that we are souls. We have a soul. We have a spirit. We're different than animals. The irony of that whole phrase, spirit animal, is they don't have spirits. You do, I do. So I'll just simply say that I'm talking about faith. Do you believe that you are here on this earth for a reason? What is that reason? What do you think about eternity? Do you believe in serving other people? I'm just going to tell you, I'm not here to preach today. Certainly after the opening to the show, I will tell you that I think that you need to be healthy in your soul. Next area is your heart. I'm not talking about your physical heart. We'll get to that in a moment, but I'm talking about your relationship health. Your spouse, your partner, your children, your parents, your friends, your coworkers. Are you in relational health? Or is your relational life like a Jerry Springer episode? Fighting, garbage, toxicity, uncertainty. Is your relationship life a mess? Or are you healthy? Next is the mind. Now, we hear a lot about mental health, and I'm not going to get into the deep dive of this from a psychology standpoint, but I will tell you that I'm talking about positive thinking. Are you a positive thinker? Or are you a negative thinker? Are you a victor or a victim? Do you have grit? Are you mentally tough? Do you have grit? If you've got some deep psychology issues, are you getting therapy help like my friends at BetterHelp? Are you healthy mentally? Next is the body. This is the physical health. Nutrition. Are you feeding your body the right way so it acts as the machine is designed to be? Are you sick? Are you chronically ill? Do you exercise? Are you getting good sleep? This idea here is that It's hard to be successful in life when your body's falling apart. And then finally, work. Do you have professional health? In other words, are you doing work you're really good at? Are you doing work you enjoy? Is your work creating a result that's meaningful to you? That's the core methodology I teach here, right? That's the idea of I'm doing work I'm wired to do. Hey, how about the culture? You could be doing work you're wired to do, Alex, but if you show up in a toxic place, you don't want to be there, and it creates a lot of confusion, creates stress, burnout. Are you upskilling? So I just laid out very quick. I wanted to walk through those areas. So the soul, the heart, the mind, the body, and your work. So in other words, soul, spiritual health, your heart, relationship health, your mind, mental health, your body, physical health, and your work, professional health. So why am I walking through those areas? This is how we pay off the phrase, if I get better, my paycheck gets bigger. In other words, Alex, to the haters that say, oh, that's prosperity gospel, that's blah, 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 blah. Okay, let me throw it at you this way. Would you haters, would you cynics, would you critics, would you hypocrites and Pharisees, oh, I'm on fire today, would you disagree with this statement? Taking a better version of yourself to work will make you better at work. Alex is shaking his head. He likes that. In other words, when I get better, my paycheck gets bigger. Why? Because when I take a better version of myself to work in those areas, I'm going to break this down. We're keeping going. I'm just getting fired up. When my soul is healthy and I take a healthy soul to work, I'm better at work. When my heart is healthy in my relationships in life, I take a better version of myself to work. When my mind is healthy, I take a better version of my mind to work. When my body is healthy, I take a better version of myself to work. And when I am actually winning at work, I take a better version of work take a better version of myself to work. So I don't think anybody can argue with that, Alex. And if you do, my gosh, I'd love to introduce you to a rock. Sit back and turn a video camera on because you'd argue with a rock. So here's the phrase. Taking a better version of yourself to work will make you better at work. Now let's keep going, shall we? This is a progression. If I take a better version of myself to work, I will be better at work. And when I am better at work, I produce better results. I know this is like trigonometry here. This is so deep. I'm dropping unbelievable depth today. I'm joking. It's crazy simple. And when I create better results at work, I get opportunities to move up or potentially move out. So let me just wrap in 1 minute and a half. 90 seconds. I'm going to give you a story. So I was in a meeting, and Alex, you were not in this meeting, and somebody on my team who I respect said, no, I'm going to give you an example of somebody who's a friend of mine who has gotten better at his job. He has gotten better as a person. And he just got moved laterally. Like he hasn't gotten a bigger paycheck. And they looked at me like, all right, Skippy, what are you going to do with that one? And I thought about it for about a second and a half. And I said, part of getting better so that your paycheck gets bigger is moving to a better position. In other words, in a better company. Like, folks, if you hit your lid somewhere and you have gotten better and you're going, Ken, there's a chink in this armor, Ken. I've gotten better, but my paycheck hasn't gotten bigger at this company. Guess what? You got to get on a better bus. Free will. It's your decision. So a better version of me is a better version of a professional, and I'm going to make more money. Take that. Hey, folks, I want to tell you about Aiden. He started at Bethel Tech 2 weeks after graduating high school, and less than a year later, he's 19 and working as a full-stack software developer. He loved the idea of being able to work at his own pace, but what he really thought was cool was Bethel Tech's faith-based learning environment and being with classmates who had a similar worldview. Now, if this is you, or if you have a son or a daughter that's looking for the next step out of high school and they may be tech-minded, at least interested, you need to talk to Bethel Tech. Listen to this. Fortune Magazine named them as a top 10 best UX UI bootcamp for 2024. And right now, they're offering you 10% off because you listen and watch The Ken Coleman Show. They also allow you to pay cash, and I know you'll like that. Go to betheltech.net/Ken Coleman for details. Terms and conditions apply. All right, is the Fed going to drop the rates? Everybody is watching that, aren't they? I mean, everybody's going, what's going on, man? I just realized I went into a drunk Bill Clinton voice there. Hey, Jerome. Hey, it's Bill. What's going on with those rates, man? Can you help a brother out? I don't know how that happened, but I just accidentally morphed into Bill Clinton, folks. It depends what is, you know. Hey, we're going to get to that in just a second. But if you love those little moments right there of magic where I became Bill Clinton, an intoxicated Bill Clinton, but nonetheless, Bill Clinton, and this show is helping you, would you help us by spreading the word? A 5-star review, only positives, please. That's why this 5-star. Follow on the podcast, a share, a subscribe on the YouTube channel, liking the videos, all the things that'll help us. Thank you very much. All right. So here's the story. I think I surprised the team in there. Okay, this article. What is the Fed going to do? Headline from Business Insider: the job market has 3 weak spots that could, oh boy. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you before I even get to the article, I'm teaching some life lessons here about information. The word could in this headline is massive. Like when you read headlines, read every word. Let me explain. The job market has 3 weak spots that will bring steeper Fed cuts. Now, that's different. That's a guarantee. But what happens is we read headlines like this. The job market has 3 weak spots that could bring steeper Fed rate cuts. And what we hear is, and what we feel is, will. That's just a little life lesson. Because we are in a day and age where we are overwhelmed with headlines and people know what they're doing. I was having a conversation with my wife about this last night, Alex. She said to me, we're talking about anxiety in kids. And she goes, why do you think there's so much more anxiety in this generation than the past? And this is my simple take, that we have more information that is scaring the absolute crap out of us than we previously had. Bob, you and I are the old guys here today. When I was growing up, we didn't have car seats. We didn't have bike helmets. Do you know why? Because marketers hadn't figured out that was a pretty good idea. And they thought, well, we got to introduce a generation to a car seat. So what do we got to do? Scare the living crap out of them. If you don't have your kid in this handy dandy little car seat facing backwards in the car, you get in a car accident, their little brain is going to explode. I got news for you. My mom and dad were in town, Nathan, 2 weeks ago, and I brought this up to my mom, and I said, I need to know, Mom. I was born in 1974. Like, when I was a baby and you guys went for a drive, where was I? You ready for this? She said, in my lap. I'm a baby. She was holding me like this. And she had a seatbelt on. Now, some of you are like, your minds are exploding. But here's the point. And I've given 2 lessons in one article. All right. The headlines today, social media posts today, commentators' comments today, marketing messages today. If you're watching sports and you watch a commercial about the next drug, you are scared out of your mind before you even know what the drug does because they lead with symptoms. Here's my point. We have been conditioned by very smart people to be afraid so that we will buy what they tell us. And on this headline, I have a point here. I'm not on a crazy rabbit trail, Alex. On this point right here, this headline says, the job market has 3 weak spots that could bring steeper Fed rate cuts. You can't go, oh, yay, and make bad financial decisions based on this headline. All right, let's get to the points. There are 3 weak spots, says Goldman Sachs. And these are real numbers, by the way. So we get beyond the headline and we go, what does this mean? And I'm going to tell you, by the way, in just a couple of minutes, what do you do with this information? Okay? Because I'm here to inform you and then equip you. Here we go. What are the 3 weak spots in the job market that could, be a factor for Jerome Powell and the Fed to cut rates? Number one, household employment growth has slowed. I'm going to explain what that is. So when Goldman Sachs surveys households, not companies, okay, so when you get a employment report and it comes out every month, okay, there are multiple pieces of data in it, and what we look at most of the time is job roles, payroll. Did payrolls go up? In other words, did they add more jobs collectively? Did the economy add more jobs, or did they add less jobs and we saw a cut? But what we also see in that data is a very different part of the survey, which is what we're talking about here, which is household survey. So here's what that means. It means Goldman Sachs surveys houses, and you talk to real people, and the question is, did you get a new job? And so the number of new jobs, according to real people, real families, real members of this American economy, is falling behind. And so it's actually 1.4 million jobs in a contraction. In other words, it's fallen behind the number of 2022 and 2023 to the tune of 1.4 million. That is a legitimate cause for concern. In other words, when we survey actual households, people are saying, no, I haven't gotten employed. I've not added a new job. No. And then this is very interesting. Employment is falling. The employment rate is falling among 16 to 24-year-olds. That is concerning to me. Now, that is normally a volatile demographic. Obviously, we're talking about 16-year-olds. So my son just started working at a local joint restaurant. And, he said he's already seen 3 or 4 people come and go in his first 2 weeks. 16 to 24-year-olds, come on. Changing ideas all the time. They don't have a great work ethic sometimes. It is what it is. Now, you look at that 22 to 24-year-old age demographic, and that is concerning because theoretically, a lot of those people should be coming out of college. All right, well, let's keep moving. Second issue, unemployment rate is climbing. While we're still at a very low unemployment rate, we're at 4%. Folks, that's up over the 3.6. Look, Jerome Powell said this when he first started raising rates 2 years ago. We want to see the unemployment rate go up a little bit. That will affect overall spending and thus cool inflation. So not a real surprise here, but the 3-month average of the employment rate unemployment rate has climbed 4 percentage points. Number 3, the hiring rate, this is companies that are hiring, has fallen back to the pre-pandemic trend. This is also a concerning sign. The 3-month moving average of the hiring rate has fallen to its lowest level since pre-pandemic. And hiring intentions, in other words, companies saying we plan to hire, those numbers have fallen 8% since the same time last year. What does that mean? The job market is in fact softening, and you only have 10 to 15% of new labor market entrants are finding a job. So this is also concerning. So these are people coming out of college. You're talking about only 10 to 15% are getting something, as they say, I'm in. So what does that mean? Companies aren't hiring as much. And so you want to pay attention to that. Does that have some recessionary flags to it? Yes, not guaranteed. We're in a presidential election. That's interesting. Here's the deal. Nobody really knows where this job economy is going. But with a couple of things like this, these three signs, you could see a very softening labor market. So what does that mean to you? Especially if you're switching or you're coming out. I'm going to give you two specific things you got to do. Number one, you've got to use my proximity principle. It says in order to do what I want to do, I've got to be around people that are doing it and in places where it's happening. In other words, the more I connect in the area I want to be with people, the more opportunities will come my way. If you are going to be a lone ranger and sit at home and fire resumes all day long, you are basically spitting into the wind. You're playing the lottery. The second thing you got to do, I would be considering right now multiple sources of income. If the job market contracts and you start to see layoffs, which you could, what do? I think multiple streams of income right now is the way to go. To get a 6-month emergency fund is what I would be sitting on right now at a minimum. And multiple streams of income so that I am flexible and I'm not worried about survival. So there you go, straight from the horse's mouth. That's what I think. I don't think it has to be panic. And I think some of this is going to happen before we see rates drop. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. Hey, if you are somebody who's frustrated professionally, you're not where you want to be, I'm going to tell you that the absolute foundational thing you need to be doing is getting clear about who you are, what you want to do, and where you can do it. And that's why we've created what I believe is the foundational tool to everything I do in my attempt to help people win at work. And that is clarity, clarity, clarity. Self-awareness, self-awareness, self-awareness. And it's the Get Clear assessment. Find the work you're wired to do. There it is. It's on the shelf behind me as well. The assessment takes about 20 minutes. The book itself is about a 45-minute read. It picks you up at your results. And what are your results? We give you a report. It's beautifully clear. It tells you what you do best, what you enjoy doing most, and the results that motivate you. And this is a game changer. You can get it at kencoleman.com in the store, kencoleman.com in the store. All right, to the phones we go. Spokane, Washington is where Kyle is joining us. Kyle, you're on the Ken Coleman Show. How can I help?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
So I'm in a situation where I'm looking to go back into the workforce full time for the first time in about a decade.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of background. My wife is a pediatrician, and so I was working while she was in medical school, but as she started going into residency and whatnot, I stayed home with our kids.
Yeah.
And
good for you.
With the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, she's a pediatrician, so you can kind of read in between the lines on where that's been going the last few years. She's just burnt out, and we've tried having her start her own little clinic in the last few years, and it's not going very well, and she's just kind of sick of the whole thing. And so I'm looking to go back into the workforce, but again, it's been 10 years, and I'm not even really sure where to start. My college training is I was an environmental scientist, wetland scientist, but I haven't done that again, in 10 years, and I'm helping our church out with their bookkeeping. But I've, on the disc profile, I'm very high S, very high C. Mm-hmm. So it satisfies the need to do a spreadsheet and a checklist kind of thing. But, working for someone else as a bookkeeper, it's like, I can't support a family on that because it tends to be pretty low income. But the idea of I'm going to start my own bookkeeping thing and look at a computer screen for 12 hours a day, that makes the safety, the S and the C part, start my own thing. I don't know.
Right. No, I get that.
I'm not sure what to do, man.
Well, there's 4 types of work in the world. If you take every job in the world, I think you can categorize them into 4 buckets of work. One is idea work. So think creative, imaginative type work. You're always creating something or some content. So it's idea work. And then there is process work, which just think about accounting, project management, organizational efficiency type stuff. That makes sense so far?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then you got people work, where you're directly working with people. That's a pretty broad type of work, but it's people-focused, people-centric work. And then finally, object work or things, right? So you're building something, fixing something, crafting something. Still makes sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so I'm trying to keep this super simple so you don't have to think very much, because I think you're deep inside your head, and I'm trying to get you out of your head into your heart this morning. And so let me ask, based on those types of work, idea work, process work, people work, object thing work, where would you rate yourself the highest from a talent standpoint? Which bucket? And if you got two of them that are close, tell me. Well, let's just think about what you're good at doing. Where do you fall in those areas of work?
Probably the process organization. I've always been kind of oriented towards spreadsheets and list making, and as we've been working our way through the baby steps, I'm the budget nerd. Yeah, and you're just proficient. You're proficient in those areas. Okay. So simple question. But I think I can do some people work. Good. As well, because I do communicate with people at the parish. Okay. So let's say you and I have a whiteboard right now, and I've got the whiteboard split in half with a marker, and on the left side, or on the far left, we're just going talent. This is what you do best. And we've just pulled two types of work over there. We said, all right, we're going systems work and people work. That's where you're best, right? Mm-hmm. All right, let's do the same exercise. The type of work you love. The type of work that you look forward to, the type of work you lose yourself in, what categories? Is it process as well? Is it people as well? Do we drag both of those into the enjoyment piece, the enjoyment column? Come on, stop thinking. You've already selected an answer, so go with it. What would you pull down into that? As far as like what I really actually enjoy doing. Yeah, how about you give me that? You got 4 categories. Ideas, so processes. Go ahead. Part of my bookkeeping duties at the parish is I actually take care of our landscaping at our church rectory. And as far as like getting out there on a Saturday and like pulling weeds and like crafting the landscaping, as far as like taking out sun, putting in a flower bed like that, I can use the logistics of that's like process planning work and budgeting and whatnot. That's process work. And like at the end of the day, to sit back and be like, look at this flower bed. This looks way better than what was here before. I would call that that process work, wouldn't you? It's a process. True, yeah, because it's thinking through the logistics of like, first I have to do this, I need to rip this piece of equipment, et cetera. Process. Sure. It is a process, right? I'm using equipment. I'm planning. I'm making it better. I mean, my point is, you see where we're going here? Now we just got, what you gave us was an idea of what you love to do, the kind of work you love to do. There's something that's satisfying about the start to finish on landscaping. You've got to honor that. So let's just stay in that example. What is so satisfying about that at the end of that when you look at it? What result would you call that? Would you call that achievement? Would you call it influence? Would you call it imagination? The creative side of things? Would you call it service? Would you call it solution? What would you call it? I think maybe a blend of service and solution. That's what I think.
That's what I think.
Right now it's like this, because it's basically been sitting there for like 4 years untouched. So it's like,
yeah, you solved a problem.
I want our parish priest to come home to some place that it is enjoyable for them, because they they spend all night going to give sacraments to people that are on their deathbed.
Yeah.
So that they can come home to a place that's enjoyable. So it's serving them, and it's making it look better. It's a solution to this problem.
Yeah. So what kind of money do you need to bring home?
Ideally, to cover our just monthly, like, bare minimum expenses would be annualized at probably $60K, but to, like, really, because we're on baby step 4, 5, 6, so to really, maximize retirement savings, college savings for the kids and whatnot, I would like to be closer to like a 120 to 130, so that we're.
And what is your wife? What is your wife making? What's your wife making right now as a pediatrician?
Her clinic last year, her income from that was $40K.
Yeah, that's just crazy. I have a thought on that, by the way. I think she should consider a concierge model where she only serves X amount of families and everything's cash and all that kind of stuff, and she doesn't have to do the traditional clinic model and all that, and she is I don't know, I just got to tell you, there's a bridge here between the clinic way she's been doing it, which is really frustrating her, and actually just old school, like, house doctor. Do you know what I mean? I really think she ought to consider that.
That's actually what we've started. It's finding the clientele that can support it. And that's a weak point in our, obviously both of us being science majors, we didn't get a whole lot of business training.
Yeah, but I don't think this is business. I think this is, the demographic in Spokane and greater Spokane area that could actually afford this. And you give them a concierge service where they're not having to fight to get appointments and all that. And she is their pediatrician on call. I'm telling you, there are clientele there, the wealthier people who want convenience and care would jump all over that situation. So that's not why you called, but I will tell you this. I think there's something in this landscaping idea. And are you going to make 120 right out of the gate? Probably not. But starting a landscaping business is not as hard as you think. And, we're talking about equipment and then people. That's something to think about. But I'm going to give you the Get Clear assessment. I want you to take it, and I want you to see how it lines up with some of the stuff we just ideated, so that you can actually see, I can actually get out there and do this. It doesn't matter that I've been at home for 10 years. I have skill. I have experience. Go do it.
Thanks for listening to The Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.